Hello and welcome to my channel, Iwindaloo's Gaming. The Capitan of Fontaine's Special Security and Surveillance Patrol, Chevreuse, has just arrived as the newest playable character in Genshin Impact. In this video, we'll be taking a look at how spectacular a Constellation Zero Chevreuse is. Ah yes, everyone's favorite local law enforcement officer who enjoys greasy food and sweets happens to be Chevreuse of all characters. The stereotype of gun-loving police officers who are regularly sighted at local donut shops and fast food restaurants is further perpetuated through her character design. Funny southern tropes aside, Chevreuse is an incredibly interesting character, repurposing a long-forgotten and largely useless elemental reaction, Overloaded. So get your holsters and fries ready, because I'm about to overload you with Chevreuse information. As usual, we'll take a look at her kit, how much she buffs her team, a couple different team showcases, a 4-star only Abyss 12 run, and of course, my honest opinion on greasy and sugary foods, and of Chevreuse as well. For my Chevreuse's build, she's using a Refinement 5 Favonius Lance. For her artifacts, she has a focus on crit rate, HP percent, and energy recharge, utilizing the 2-piece Emblem of Severed Fates and 2-piece Tenacity of the Millelith. She's of course at Constellation 0, and her talents are at 1, 9, and 9.
So buckle your bootstraps, y'all, cause I reckon we take a gander at that there gun-toting, grease-grubbing, fast-food-craving, sugar-loving, Chevy-trucking, trigger-pushing sheriff. Now, don't we? Yeehaw!
Let's start laying down the law with her normal attack, Line Bayonet Thrust X. Let's not waste too much time here because I'm sure everyone and their grandmothers know how her normal attacks are going to do negligible damage in this situation. So instead, let's bust out her trusty musket with her elemental skill, Short Range Rapid Interdiction Fire. Her elemental skill has 3 versions, all of which do a bit of Usha damage. The tap version simply does a bit of damage and generates some particles. She can also hold it to aim. While it's unenhanced, the AoE is very small. However, after someone on the team triggers an overloaded reaction, she'll gain an overcharged ball indicated by this icon here. Then, by using her hold elemental skill, she'll expel this overcharged ball through her musket, dealing more damage, more AoE, and providing the team with an attack buff thanks to her second passive. As we can see in this clip, the entire party gained a very substantial 40% attack buff after Chevreuse unloaded her overcharged ball. We didn't even need to hit an enemy for this attack buff to occur, and for every 1000 hit points that Chevreuse has, she'll provide 1% attack to the entire party. So that's why I built my Chevreuse with 40,000 hit points. Also, using any version of her elemental skill provides healing for the on-field character, ticking 6 times, and with my current build, healing for 2,346 health per tick. This healing also doesn't require you to hit anything with Chevreuse, which is a nice quality of life feature. Who would have thought that randomly discharging your firearm in public would provide healing properties? Next we have Chevreuse's elemental burst, Ring of Bursting Grenades. It deals an immediate instance of damage followed by 8 exploding grenades, all with reasonable AoE. Besides dealing some damage though, it is actually largely unremarkable. And now for the big kahuna of Chevreuse's kit, her passive 1. This is what will define Chevreuse as a character and her place in the meta. Her passive 1, Vanguard's Coordinated Tactics, is only activated if you have only Pyro and Electro characters in your party. When an enemy is hit by Overloaded, their resistance to both Pyro and Electro will be reduced by a whopping 40% for 6 seconds. That's right, she has a built-in Viridescent Veneer for overloaded teams, which is absolutely incredible. What's even more incredible is that Chevreuse doesn't even need to take the field for this resistance shred to occur. Let's see how much she can buff a standard Xiangling. Thanks to Chevreuse's 40% attack buff and 40% pyro resistance shred, Xiangling is now doing 61% more damage with her Pyronado. This is an incredible low effort, low field time buff, coming from a Constellation 0 4-star character. Anyway, as per tradition, let's take a look at her entire kit. I'll allow an overloaded from a teammate. Well, without any buffs besides the ones that she's providing to herself, the damage she's doing here is admittingly pretty negligible. Let's now take a look at a few full team scenarios, starting with a full 4-star only team, with Xiangling using the catch, Bennett using the sapwood blade, and Fischl using the stringless. Unsurprisingly, it was a rather effortless single cycle of our robot chicken friend. And of course, there's a gosh darn good reason why Chevy is on the Raiden Shogun's banner. And that's because she's an incredible Kazuha substitute. That's right, Chevreuse's buffs, even at Constellation 0, are on par with a Constellation 2 Iron Sting Kazuha's buffs for a Hyper Raiden team. This is incredibly valuable in situations where Kazuha's other utilities aren't preferred and where he perhaps might be preferred on the other team. The teams don't stop here, obviously, as any type of pyro and electro damage focused team can utilize Chevreuse, especially with some ranged characters not minding overloadeds. For example, a non-vape Yoimiya can make great use of Chevreuse. Admittingly, vape Yoimiya has a higher damage ceiling, but this is certainly still a very valuable alternative. So what are the main advantages and disadvantages of Chevreuse? She really enables some new, never-before-seen team archetypes revolving around overloaded. This means that you're able to free up characters like Kazuha and Xingqiu Yelan for other teams while not sacrificing any damage on, for example, a Hyper Raiden team. Admittingly, teams like Xiangling National and Yoimiya Vape do have higher damage ceilings than overloaded Chevreuse variants, but the fact that, again, you're able to remove Kazuha and Xingqiu from the above teams allows for a ton of flexibility for building your second team. This is incredibly valuable for a 4-star character, and one even at Constellation 0 that can also just use a smattering of garbage artifacts with the extremely common Favonius Lance. Chevreuse is a character that will only also get more valuable over time, as you get her constellations, which will help battery your team and provide a massive bonus damage boost at Constellation 6, along with a full party heal. This means that in many, albeit limited situations, Chevreuse can provide even larger damage buffs than characters like Kazuha and Sucrose can. And this is all without a proper support polearm that actually amplifies damage. Anyway, the fact that she's able to apply the resistance shred completely off-field is another incredible asset. Big weakness of the Viridescent Veneer is that you're not able to reapply the Viridescent Veneer debuff unless you swap that Anemo character on. However, Overloaded simply needs to hit the enemy in order for the resistance shred from her passive 1 to be applied. Now, this does admittingly lead to one of her weaknesses, which is that for one of her current best teams, being Hyper Raiden, this team actually has no way to reapply Pyro after the Raiden Shogun starts slashing away at her enemies. But for other Chevreuse teams, off-field Pyro and or Electro application will be able to continuously reapply the resistance shred, even to newly spawning enemies where Anemo characters would have to swap back on in order to reapply the resistance shred. Chevreuse does have, of course, other weaknesses. Being that she is likely going to replace your Anemo character on a team, this means that you're also sacrificing the grouping capabilities that Anemo characters provide. In fact, Overloaded does the opposite of grouping enemies since it actively and maliciously attempts to spread the enemies. But fortunately, there are plenty of enemies that don't get spread out by Overloaded, and these are the main situations where Chevreuse will really shine. Lastly, while Chevreuse does provide healing, you'll most certainly want to run her with Bennett, as Bennett hugely fits every single team that Chevreuse currently would want to be on. I'm also not entirely sure as to what non-pure overloaded teams you'd want to run Chevreuse on, so she is restricted when it comes to team building. But in the future, I could see a situation where you might not actually want to use Bennett with Chevreuse, but we'll just have to see. Anyway, this 4-star only overloaded team was able to effortlessly destroy the current Abyss 12, clearing both the top half and the bottom half well within the recommended 9-star times. Chevreuse is able to actually shred Pyro and Electro resistances on the Hydro Tulpa, since you're able to apply Overloaded on it despite its permanent Hydro Aura. For the second half of Abyss 12, this team still did extremely well despite the enemy's heavy Electro resistances, like the Electro Oceanid, who obviously fully resists Electro damage, and the Electro Lava Churls. What this reflects is that as long as an Abyss side isn't essentially heavily resistant to both Pyro and Electro damage, Chevreuse teams will be able to shine. So what is my opinion on Chevreuse? Well, I do believe I've covered most of what I think about her throughout this video, and I am also a sucker for greasy and sugary foods, just like she is. Waistlines aside, Chevreuse is certainly a character that, if I was struggling a bit to build a team without characters like Kaza and Xingqiu, is a much welcomed addition to the roster. She definitely actually makes Overloaded a wonderfully useful reaction. Admittingly, she is a specialized support, similar to many 4-stars before her, like Farazan and Goro. But at the very least, she actually has a purpose for existing, unlike most 4-star characters, which are directly power creeped by their 5-star peers. Let me know what you think about everyone's favorite gun-toting, grease-grubbing, sugar-loving Chevy down in the comments below. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. This is I Want to Lose, signing out.
答えなさい。